Hello and welcome to the first of 4 video talks that form part of the Writer's Workshop course on writing picture books and early reader books. My name is Pippa G. I come from a bookselling background but also have experience in teaching and publishing. I've been a writer of children's books for 20 years now, many of them picture books and early reader books for young children. I've learnt a lot about writing and publishing through those years and experiences, but one of the things I've learnt is that there's no simple recipe for writing a book that will guarantee publication. Writing illustrated stories for young children is a complex game to play, but that's part of the fun of it. Who is this course for? Well, it's for anybody who wants to write picture books or young reader books for young children, whether or not you have any experience of writing so far, and whether or not you're also an artist. We will, of course, be thinking about illustration and design because picture books impart their stories both visually and orally through pictures and through words. But there's no need for you to be able to draw anything unless you want to. I'm no artist, but I've learnt to think about the content of pictures and to relay those thoughts in words. I'll just explain how this course will work over the 4 weeks that it runs. There will be a video like this one each week, which after this one I'm going to use largely for showing and sharing books so that you can see the words and pictures and design working together. There will also be a written lecture on the weekly topic which you'll find on this site, and that lecture will prompt an assignment task for the week. This week's lecture is trying to get you to see the world from a child's point of view so that you're in tune with your intended audience. You will get the most out of this course if you complete the assignments and post them online for the group to read and comment on. It's a closed group, so nobody outside the group can see what is posted and said. You can, if you like, send me your work privately, but you and the group will learn and gain more if you share. Everyone in the group will have a different perspective on your work, of course. You'll get a more interesting set of reactions the larger the number and range of people who comment. Writing is subjective. People like different styles and enjoy different kinds of stories. And I'm sure some of you have views that are informed by being parents or teachers of young children. Perhaps you're a bookseller or a publisher, as well as being a writer yourself. Your comments will be of great value to each other. Taking criticism and using it to make your work better is a necessary skill to learn if you want to get published. I've had over 90 books published, and yet much of my work is still rejected outright. And every text that does go on to get published is rewritten in reaction to comments from others before it gets into print. I have a couple of groups of writer friends with whom I share work, and we critique each other, and I find that vital. To be a writer, you need a strange combination of arrogance, sensitivity and bloody-mindedness. Arrogance, because you have to believe in your own work enough for others to pay for it, and that is an arrogant assumption. Sensitivity, because you need to be open and receptive to the comments from others, even if what they're telling you is the last thing you want to hear. They might be telling you that what you need to get rid of is the thing that you think is the best about your work. Are they perhaps right? But you also need that bloody-mindedness because sometimes, after you've considered the views of others, you might decide that actually they are wrong and you are right, and you'll jolly well battle for your own ideas and prove them wrong. That happened to me with what turned into my best-selling book, You Choose. My agent didn't believe in it. I remember the look on her face. She tried it with a few publishers and I left the agent because I did believe in it, and I tried publishers myself, and 9 publishers turned it down, all with the same reason, saying it didn't have a story, which is right. It wasn't a storybook, it was a sort of game book, a catalogue book called You Choose. And when it did get a publisher and beautifully illustrated, it began to succeed, and it's now been in print for 10 years and sold over 1 million copies. So just sometimes it's worth using that bloody-minded aspect of your character. However, that was the exception. Usually my stories are turned down because they simply aren't strong enough to sell in what is a very competitive market. It's important that you learn how to judge and critique your own work, and the best way to learn that skill is by practicing the skill on the work of others. So I do encourage you to comment on the work of others for your own sake as well as for theirs. Even if you've just got a small piece of work written, or simply an idea that you'd like to discuss, do feel free to put that up online for comment, just as freely as you would a finished piece that you're proud of. This is your course, and it's to be used in whatever way is most useful to you. Now, before I finish, I do want to share one picture book with you, and it's a classic, a brilliant one. I want to get you thinking about the opportunities that a seemingly simple picture book can offer in the way of allowing you to actually produce a very profound and important book in a simple way. I want to show you Farmer Duck, written by Martin Waddell and illustrated by Helen Oxenbury, and I want you to notice some things as I read it. You'll notice that there are no obvious child characters in this story, and you might think that the problems that it addresses are adult ones. But the strong emotional issue that powers this story along is actually one that resonates very strongly with any small child, because it's the issue of something being not fair. So this is a big and moving story, but told simply and with humour. Even though we're not addressing writing styles yet, do please notice how the text of this book enjoys rhythm and rhyme without ever getting stuck into a verse structure that demands a rhyme at a certain point. Notice too how Martin Waddell trusts his young audience to interpret and understand what a simple moo, bar or cluck might mean. He doesn't explain everything. So this is the story of Farmer Duck. There was once a duck who had the bad luck to live with a lazy old farmer. The duck did the work. The farmer stayed all day in bed. The duck fetched the cow from the field. "How goes the work?" called the farmer. The duck answered, "Quack." The duck brought the sheep from the hill. "How goes the work?" called the farmer. The duck answered, "Quack." The duck put the hens in their house. "How goes the work?" called the farmer. The duck answered, "Quack." The farmer got fat through staying in bed, and the poor duck got fed up with working all day. "How goes the work? Quack. How 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 goes the work? Quack." The poor duck was sleepy and weepy and tired. The cow and the hens and the sheep got very upset. They loved the duck, so they held a meeting under the moon and they made a plan for the morning. "Moo," said the cow. "Baa," said the sheep. "Cluck," said the hens. And that was the plan. It was just before dawn and the farmyard was still. Through the back door and into the house crept the cow and the sheep and the hens. They stole down the hall, they creaked up the stairs. They squeezed under the bed of the farmer and they wriggled about. The bed started to rock and the farmer woke up and he called, "How goes the work?" And moo, bar, cluck. They lifted his bed and he started to shout, and they banged and they bounced the old farmer about and about and about, right out of the bed. And he fled with the cow and the sheep and the hens, mooing and baaing and clucking around him. Down the lane, moo, through the fields, baa, over the hill, cluck, and he never came back. The duck awoke and waddled wearily into the yard, expecting to hear, "How goes the work?" But nobody spoke. Then the cow and the sheep and the hens came back. Quack, asked the duck. Moo, said the cow. Baa, said the sheep. Cluck, said the hens, which told the duck the whole story. Then mooing and baaing and clucking and quacking, they all set to work on their farm.